Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time and the opportunity to hear about Strategic Energy Resources, ASX code SER, and our story. We are specialised undercover explorers and project generators, and our focus is copper and gold opportunities in Tier 1 locations across Australia. Today's presentation, I'm going to run you through the strategy that underpins this company, some of our current assets and why there's been some successes already with this strategy, and then have a look at the assets that we look at generating news flow for the next 12 months. Before I do, typical disclaimer that everyone's shown, there are forward-looking statements within this presentation. This presentation is also on our website and on the ASX platform as of this morning. But I'll first start with an introduction to the people behind this company. And I've already said that we are specialist undercover explorers, so you need a speciality and you need people who have plenty of experience in project generation and leading companies. Our executive team is led by Stuart Reckner, who is an eternal project generator. He's also on the board of Kingston Resources, as that made the transition this year from project generation and exploration into production. Anthony McIntosh accompanies him at board level on a number of ASX-listed mineral exploration and other companies. Also on the board during the Echo Resources Northern Star takeover in 2019. So there's plenty of corporate experience, very small corporate structure. Myself, my background is in research and development across a number of industries, including exploration, for over 15 years. And I manage SER in very much the same fashion. Very lean, a lot of work goes into proving up targets, de-risking projects, and doing as much drilling as we possibly can. Our technical team is led by Neil Chalmers. Neil is here today and will field any of the more technical questions for everyone. Deep background in project generation and deep exploration drilling. Alongside Neil is Chris Yates, who's also here today, and his former Executive Director of the Geological Survey of New South Wales, and absolutely instrumental in us putting together our New South Wales projects. On the corporate side of things, 280 million shares on offer. We have been around for quite some time, but our current strategy is really only a couple of years old, where we started focusing exactly on greenfields opportunities undercover within Australia. You may recognise one of our major shareholders, DAT Capital. That is Emmanuel Dat from Melbourne, and he runs the DAT Fund. He's been a supporter of the company and our structure for a number of years now, and we look forward to his continuing support. Cash position does appear quite low at $1 million. I'll point that out to everyone. Recently this year, we had a capital raise where we only invited current shareholders to participate. We find the current funding for juniors is absolutely terrible, and we'll do everything we can to maintain our corporate structure. And in doing so, if our major shareholders want to play, as well as the directors on the board, we'll open it to them first and use that as a way of funding in the short term. So behind this specialist undercover exploration strategy, there are three main pillars that drive that. In order to be specialised, you have to rely on the sciences. And we are using that to identify projects and also methodically undertake our exploration process. We start by targeting known mineral deposits throughout Australia. And we say, well, where are they? What are they hosted in? Where's the structure? And let's follow that undercover. Because the moment you go undercover and things get difficult, things get deep, the number of explorers you're competing against disappears, especially juniors. So we're finding ourselves in a unique position where heading undercover removes competition, but also increases the potential, because if a Tier 1 deposit is currently being mined on a same structure that we're now looking at, there is a potential for multiple mines along that same structure. But you can't do that without technical excellence. We are not just Neil and Chris and our foremost team. We also rely on a host of other experts that sit behind us that we bring in to help us with project generation, de-risking targets, and then going on and doing the drilling. But it's expensive, and we recognise that. There is no news to anyone here that undercover exploration is expensive. And so we do a number of things to offset some of that expenditure. One of them is formed JVs where possible, and I'll show you a success in a moment. Selling projects for cash, and also leveraging any R&D funding or co-contribution from various states and governments to help us get on ground and do the drilling. A couple of successes from our strategy. The first one happened almost immediately as we started to this undercover exploration program. That was in 2019, where we formed a farm-in and joint venture agreement with Fortescue. You'll notice our land position here at the south of the Gawler Cratton in the Olympic Copper Gold Province, home to a number of operating mines, including, of course, Olympic Dam. FMG have quite a large land position there. This is relatively unknown to most people. What is shown in this image is just their 100% owned ground. There is a number of JVs across this region as well. Our project to the south has a 15-kilometre strike length of sediment-hosted copper sulphides. We recognised very early that a major is going to need to come in and do a lot of the exploration and deep drilling here. And quite fortuitously, we have Fortescue in and around us, and they approached us, and we subsequently formed a joint venture. The joint venture has stalled due to land access, but we're hopeful in the new year that FMG can get on ground, complete a gravity survey, and then start drilling. And one of our issues with joint ventures that we see in other companies doing is there's no metrics to say how much drilling gets done. And we were very early on in part of the agreement here with FMG, made sure that they would get on ground, spend as much money as they thought was necessary to prove up targets, but then make sure that they drilled at least 5 of the best targets. And that's where we get that 1,500 metres drilling. So we're hopeful in the new year we'll have some news for all investors who have been waiting quite a long time to hear more about what's happening with the FMG ground. Our second success earlier this year with Evolution, we pegged 2 small land packages in and around the Cowal operating gold mine and the Marsden deposit in New South Wales. And you'll notice just how close we are to those projects. Those areas were in open ground at the time. We entered a competitive bid process and we managed to beat all other competitors, including Evolution, to the ground. And not long after we secured the ground, we started de-risking both projects. And it turns out that Evolution wanted the ground a bit more than we had the opportunity and the risk appetite to continue exploring, given most of those tenement areas are currently underwater at the moment. And earlier this year, we signed an option agreement. The $300,000 that we saw immediately come into the company was over double what we had spent on the projects to date. And we're hopeful that the Evolution mining group come through and put the option on the table over the next 2 years, which will see $1 million come in for each of those tenements. Another example of how we're offsetting the cost of doing a greenfields exploration program. So getting across to, we're actually currently exploring across Australia. We have a large tenement holding in the East Tennant Copper Gold Project area. In there we have around 1,300 kilometres that those areas were identified as part of the pre-competitive data being released by Geoscience Australia and the Northern Territory Geological Survey. The projects there, we've undertaken some preliminary drilling and we're sitting back and watching what a lot of the explorers in that region are currently doing. It is a new region, very little known about it, and so everyone's really developing models as they go by drilling. It's very expensive to do so. As I said, we sit and wait on those projects at the moment. The 2 projects I'll talk through today are the Isa Undercover Initiative and the South Cobar Polymetallic projects. We also have a Greenfields project in Mundy, which we're hopeful. We put an application in for some co-funding, and if we hear that we are successful, we'll hear more about that for the market. Our Isa Undercover Initiative project out at Kenobi, nickel copper sulphide project, as well as an IOCG project, as well as Isa North to the west of that, which is an IOCG and sediment-hosted copper project. So let's delve down into the Isa Undercover Initiative, 2 regionally significant projects, 2,500 kilometres between them. And as you can see, that strategy that I've already alluded to before, find a known mineral deposit, see where it heads undercover, stake as much ground as possible. And that's definitely the case for Kenobi. We have over 1,800 square kilometres along the Quamby Fault as it heads into the Gidia Suture Zone, more importantly, 100 kilometres north-south strike of that fault zone. Significantly underexplored, only around 30 drill holes in the region, very greenfields project. The other project in the area, Isa North, again 900 square kilometres. Take the Mount Gordon Fault, as it heads undercover, that's our land package there. Recently, as in last year, 29Metals, one of the biggest IPOs on the ASX, at the time of listing was $1 billion. They had the Capricorn deposits, and that's directly to the south of our project area. Delving deeper again into the Kenobi project, what started off for us is in 2016 as a single exploration licence at the Lucky Skid project. It's a small tenement holding you'll see in there. We picked up that project on the basis of some historical drilling that was done by Anglo-American and Anglo-Ashanti. And you'll see there some historical gold intercepts, 17 metres at 6.7, 15 metres at 9, but they are deep. But there is mineralisation there at depth. 2019, we went on to fill in the gaps between those 2 holes and managed to drill 6 metres at 12. But again, it's deep. But that was enough for us to understand that the mineralisation along that fault must be continuous all the way back to where the deposits are to the south We went to then secure the whole land tenure between as far south as we could up to the north. But in part in doing so, we started to review what else might be present there. We came across some historical data of a nickel interception back in 1994 by MIM, and that really for us gave us a second flavour to what this ground might actually hold. Other than a higher grade gold, there is potential for nickel to be hosted in there. Last year, we were fortunate to get a government funding grant from GSQ, which allowed us to put 2 deep holes into what we see as the Kalaka prospect and test the nickel. And while there we uncovered not only a 132 metre intersection, albeit at low grade or low tenor nickel, but also a high grade within that. And that's enough for us to understand that the project itself is real. There's not just copper and gold there, there's also a magmatic nickel sulfide project there as well. But we then had to turn our technical expertise to work out exactly where to map for areas of high tenor nickel. Bring in the consultants as experts in magmatic nickel sulfide. We got to the understanding quite quickly that the gravity was actually mapping the mafic units within this region. Did a gravity survey that we completed just recently now, and we were all setting up to drill. Not only that, we started reinterpreting other geophysical data sets across the region, including magnetics. We now find ourselves with a number of magmatic nickel sulfide targets in a region that is already prospective for IOCGs. Second project to the west of the Kenobi project is the Isa North project. We managed to get this off the hands of Newcrest for $0 up front, with those guys retaining a first right of refusal. One of the reasons they walked away from this project was not because of prospectivity, but it was more of land access. We have managed to secure land access across the tenement, and now we can focus on that magnetic ridge that runs north-south along the project area. Post-acquisition, we were very quick to find that being a junior explorer in a region onto something we're quickly surrounded by majors. So we have gone from this initial tenement image here, we're all on our own. Now we are completely surrounded by FMG to the east, to the west, Rios to the south, and we find Anglo-American with a massive footprint to the north. We have some understanding of why they may be there, but we are in the middle of what is majors competing for a large land access and large land ground position in that region. We know the structure that runs north-south is mineralised red metal. I put out some drilling results in 2021 showing that there were some small copper hits. They've just completed another round of drilling to the north, and we're looking forward to those results being released later on this year into early next year to really understand what sort of numbers they're getting out of those IOCG targets. For us, as I said, we've already managed to get rid of those landholder imperatives which made follow-up drilling by Newcrest very difficult. They did manage to drill 5,000 metres of diamond core. We have had access to that. We are reviewing that as we speak. And also we're trying to understand the position that the majors have made in and around our project area to understand if there's other things other than IOCGs to be looking for, which we believe is sediment-hosted copper. Our third project that I'm going through today is the Achilles project. This is in the southern end of the Cobar Basin, proven mineral region, Federation to the north, as well as the CSA copper mine. We uncovered 8 quality targets across this project area. Since acquiring it, we've gone and done a higher level mag survey across the region, proved up 8 of those targets, all getting ready for the first target to drill, which is the Achilles project. There is some historical drilling at Achilles itself. Back in 2005, Western Plains went to try and test the Achilles target. They went with a series of drilling, only one managed to get anywhere near basement. They returned a 64 metre zone averaging 0.1% copper. The second hole that they went to put in, caving occurred, and they were not able to test the target. But we are looking at this project for more than just high-grade copper gold. To the eastern side of it, there is the extension of the Warra Fault. EMS, Eastern Metals, hold a polymetallic Browns Reef deposit within that area. So there's a number of targets besides Achilles that we're looking at. Unfortunately, where the conditions permitting, we are not able to get on ground this year. We're looking early next year to get on and test that target. We have managed to do a on-ground soil sampling program, so we know exactly where we wanted to drill. We have funding from GSNSW of 120,000 to allow us to drill at that area. We have permits in place. We just can't get to site. As for the near-term news flow, we would have liked to have put some news together about exactly what's happening in New South Wales at the moment. Unfortunately, as I've mentioned, weather conditions make that quite difficult. At Kenobi and Isa North, both of those projects are in drill targeting phase. We are looking to put together a comprehensive program to test multiple targets in both project areas within the next 12 to 24 months. as you can imagine, weather conditions also in far north Queensland play a part of when we can actually get it on ground. So why SER? Well, unashamedly, we are taking a big picture approach. We are trying to test deep targets. We are trying to go into greenfields exploration regions where only the majors play, because we recognise that using geophysics, if you can see it at surface and it's 600 metres down, if it is mineralised, it'll be big enough to mine. So our long-term strategy is to find these tier 1 style deposits, engage a major involving and take it straight through to mining, and then generate enough cash and enough JV potential from that and leverage to fund the next wave of projects. And with that, thank you very much. If you want to see us, we're at booth 40. Come and say hello and we'll love to have a chat.
Thank you, David.